What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for May 7th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. We got a big show today. It is Tuesday, so let's start as we always do with a little positivity / motivation. Going to do things a little differently today, and more so a positivity spreader than the motivation today. But it is Teacher Appreciation Week as well as Nurses Appreciation Week. Kind of bogus to me that they're both the same week, but I digress. Both of these professions are near and dear to my heart. For those of you who don't know, but I think I've made it clear a lot, my day job is in education. Worked as a teacher for 9 years in North Philly and have since been working as an assistant principal for the past 9 years at a cyber charter school. My wife is a nurse, and I think teachers and nurses are the two most shit on professions out there, and unfortunately, they are two of the most important ones. To me, with teachers, I feel as though the whole funding and pay and everything, I don't want to go down that political rabbit hole, but just the disrespect that a lot of teachers get. And truthfully, we spend during the school year more waking hours with your kids than you do. So you should appreciate them. So if you know a teacher, if you are a teacher, thank you. I appreciate you. Send a little note to your kids' teachers. If you don't know any teachers in your personal or social circles, send your kids' teachers a message as simple as I appreciate you and what you do. That, trust me, that goes a long way in making a teacher's day and everything like that. But again, we spend more time with your kids during the week than you do. So you should appreciate teachers more. And again, everybody wants to blame teachers for everything because it's easy. But again, they need your support. So support your kid's teacher. Don't shit on your kids' teachers, basically. And again, send an email, send a note to your kids' teachers anyway. If you have teachers in your social circles, thank them and just appreciate what teachers do on a regular basis and educators in general. Same with nurses. And I hear the stories all the time from my wife. And for the most part, a lot of the better doctors defer to the nurses when no matter where the size of the hospital, whether you're in an office, whether you're getting an operation, whatever it is, the nurses kind of run things. And again, they get shit on because they're the ones that are dealing with the people and basically dealing with the shrapnel from people's anger or being upset, nervous, whatever. The doctors don't necessarily deal with that. So again, two very underappreciated professions. In my opinion, it's shitty that Nurses Appreciation and Teacher Appreciation weeks are on the same week. Each of them should get their own week at the very least, just for all of the BS that they have to put up with. But again, two very, very near and dear professions to my heart. So make sure you go thank a teacher. Do it as soon as you're done listening to this. Send an email to your kids' teachers. Just tell them thank you and you appreciate the job they're doing. And trust me when I say it goes a long way. Those, I still get them as an assistant principal that, hey, you did this for my kid, thank you. And it does. Like something as simple as that really makes someone's day. So just go out of your way to do that. Same thing with nurses. Be nice to them if you have a procedure or you're going into an office or whatever. They are the glue that holds a lot of those offices together. So just thank them. And again, if you have nurses in your social circle, shoot them a message. Say thank you. Say you appreciate all they do. Even if you don't go to their doctor or whatever. Just, again, little things like that mean the world, especially to teachers and nurses who don't often get the respect that they deserve and they should get. So it is Teacher and Nurses Appreciation Week. Thank a nurse. Thank a teacher. I'm telling you, just send notes. Just reach out to people. Something as simple as a text message or an email saying, I appreciate you. It goes a long way in making those days and showing that they have two very, very important jobs that oftentimes are overlooked and just don't get the respect they need. So happy Nurses Appreciation Week. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week to all the nurses and teachers out there. Like I said, go thank a teacher, thank a nurse. And that is today's Tuesday motivation/positivity. All right, let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, what was Daryl Morey going to talk about? And everybody was all over the place. It was even. I think free agent plan slightly won with like 40-some% of the vote. But as I suspected, Daryl Morey said a lot, but didn't really say much of anything. However, let's break down some of the things he said, because I think you can kind of read between the lines on some of these and possibly get a sense on where they might go. First and foremost, he said he owes it to the Philly fans to build a championship contender. Yeah, that's your job. Like, that was just a bizarre statement to say. Like, you need to do your job. Like, yeah, that's what your job title is, build a winner. But he did say the biggest need is a wing who can play and deliver in the playoffs. And we did talk a little bit about that the other day, that they need somebody to step up, specifically when Joe's not on the court and Tyrese maybe isn't at his best. Essentially, we need Tobias Harris, who we thought we were going to get. And I mean, I think that is the difference in a lot of these playoff series, and a lot of the Tobias Harris just didn't come up. So I do agree with that. It did seem as though B-Ball Paul and Ricky Council IV will be back next year, along with Joe Maxey and Nick Nurse, but then the rest of the roster spots are wide open. He was asked about Joe playing in the Olympics, given his injury history. And this is one of those things I get to a certain point. He says we're not going to stop him from chasing his dream and doing what he wants. And I'm okay with it. Yeah, there is an injury concern there, but the Olympics, I think it's a little bit different than what the NBA season is. And to be honest, maybe it'll help. Maybe he can go out there to France and do some recruiting and get some guys that want to come here. And I don't know. I don't know who's out there. Maybe there's somebody we're not seeing, a disgruntled young guy, or I don't know, a veteran who has an opt-out that might opt out to come play with Joe. But I think from a recruiting standpoint, I'm okay with him going over there. He did say Buddy Hield, the fit was less than good. I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's I don't know. And it's funny because I saw him Crossing Broad, because I'm 100% in the Buddy Hield. I've always wanted him. I wanted the Sixers to draft him. And they basically said, it was pretty funny, that essentially Buddy Hield is like the girl you were chasing for years, and you finally get the girl, and then you realize why she's had 10 boyfriends in 10 years. She's certifiably crazy. But that's basically Buddy Hield. He just was not who we thought he was going to be and who we wanted. But again, that's why you bring him in for a couple second-round picks and just kind of go with it from there. They said he said all options are on the table, but looking to probably stay with that 16 pick, or even possibly move it for assets for future drafts. Unfortunately, like, the Sixers are like, this is the most Sixers thing ever. They have a lot of cap space. It's a terrible free agent class. They have a solid draft pick, but it's not a deep draft. So all options are on the table, but it did sound like they're going to be all in for the next couple of years. He said, quote, "We put most of our focus on now versus the future, where Joe is in his prime." And to me, that and this is purely speculation, but to me, kind of implying that you're all in now, 100% sounds like it's going to be old head central. They'll probably make a run at Paul George. They'll probably make a run at Jimmy Butler if he's available, even though Pat Riley said he's not trading him. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. And if those guys aren't available, be all right kind of piecemealing it together and saving it for the next free agent class. I just don't know. It's just, again, that to me, it's the most Sixers thing ever is to have all the cap space in a year where the free agent class is terrible. And if you're watching, I have no idea what's going on with the light. I'm still working on it. All of a sudden, it just got dark, and I didn't move the light, didn't hit the light, so we'll see. But that was essentially the Daryl Morey press conference. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. 267-495-8531. Get you in on the Back to the Future text line. I feel he said really a lot, but didn't say much, and it does seem like he's going to go the way he always goes. And it's unfortunate because he hasn't had that much success. He's never won a championship. So I'm a little concerned about that, but here we are. All right, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. However, the midday show on 94 WIP, I was literally in my car for a total of 5 minutes yesterday, running to the store real quick to grab something for to make for dinner. And Joe Giglio was talking about how the fan base has gotten soft when it comes to the Sixers and kind of letting them off the hook. And I don't know if I agree with that. And I think the issue is you're hanging on to this false narrative of how bad Philly fans are. And I think Philly fans are no worse than any other fans, like when it comes to certain things like that. And if you look from 1984 to 2007, that 23-year stretch, it's literally a generation of fans who were born who, and you can even probably go back a little bit beyond that to like my generation. I was born in 78 and I was too young in 83 to watch the Sixers. So like you can go 20 to 30 years almost of fans being born who've never seen a championship, getting there to the finals and just coming up short. You had things like the Fog Bowl, the whole disaster that was the post 83 and post 93 Phillies, the post Charles Barkley Sixers, the whole Eric Lindros saga, and everything. And I think people get angry. And I think that's where some of that narrative came from. And Philly fans are tough and passionate, this, that. I don't think that's different than any other fan base. Sure, our passion is a little bit more than others. But I think you get frustrated and you get angry. And sports are supposed to be an outlet, an escape from reality. And when your teams, your escape is causing you more stress, you're going to be angry. And then if you look from 2008 till today, that 16-year period, which is just short of a generation, you have the Flyers in the Stanley Cup, an improbable way to get there. Sixers are the one team that has been disappointed, but the Eagles have been to 2 Super Bowls, won one. The Phillies have been to 3 World Series and won one. Should have won the other 2. So you have that generation of losing. Those fans finally experience it. It kind of takes the edge off. It's like having a glass of wine after work. Or people say they get hangry and they eat, like the Snickers has a whole ad campaign on it. I mean, truthfully, people, when they get on edge, they have sex and everything's fine. The championships, the Super Bowl, the World Series, and being successful and not having like the ridiculousness of the Fog Bowl or just the ridiculousness of losing season after losing season after losing season, it takes the edge off. So I don't think Philly fans have gotten softer. I think Philly fans are the most knowledgeable. I think you have these guys on WIP trying to get ratings and Ike Reese going on his rant. And I think Philly fans are smart enough to know that, okay, we weren't going to win that. And I already talked about this the other day. We weren't going to win this year. However, Joe showed us something. We saw what we have in Tyrese Maxey, but Joe literally showed more heart than he had his entire time being here. So, like, you think about it in terms of that, we're able to compartmentalize, and sure, you might call it quote-unquote soft, but I think winning a Super Bowl, and yeah, I mean, I think getting to the World Series but having those championships in pocket help us compartmentalize and be more real about it and not act with emotion, but act realistically and act logically. I say all the time when I argue with my wife, I'm a very logical thinking person. She acts with emotion. And I think Philly fans before the World Series in 2008 always acted with emotion. Now, because we have that and a Super Bowl in our pocket, we're able to think more logically. And logically, the Sixers team was not going to win a championship. And to be able to kind of compartmentalize that and see what we saw in Joe, that's not being soft. That is being realistic and thinking logically and being rational. So I don't think it's soft at all. I think you have that generation, and there's still people get stuck in their mindsets. And I think there are people out there, maybe they feel that way. Maybe it's just for ratings on WIP, but who think, oh, Philly fans are soft. Philly fans. No, we're nowhere. Like, I've met a lot of Raiders fans over the course of the past 2-3 years since doing this podcast because of my friend Kenny, who is a Raiders fan, and just sort of following him. He's helped me with advice for the podcast and things like that. Raiders fans have a bad rep for being this, that, or the other. They're no different than us. They just want to win. And if you win, things kind of, you relax a little bit. You tone things down. That's why there were fights in the 700 level. They weren't winning. The teams were terrible. And that is why. It's the more of the, just like I said, taking the edge off. There is no edge on us right now. It's getting closer because we're getting there, but we have a couple of them in our pockets. And the teams themselves have also been better. So it's not like you went from 1980 when all four teams were in the championship of their respective sports to the mid-'80s where the teams were absolutely terrible. It's the teams are actually somewhat decent and somewhat good, so we have chances to win. And that, again, helps take the edge off. Is it disappointing? You bet your sweet ass it is. However, I don't think it's soft, and I spent more time on that than I am. But that leads us to today's question of the day. Have we gotten soft as a fan base, or are we just being more logical because we do, and rational because we don't have the edge that we had before? And do we even need that edge? Do we need the title of, oh, Philly fans are tough? I could give a shit. To be completely honest, if my team's winning, I don't need that rep. And you guys know, like I talk about it all the time. I'm here as the trying to change the narrative of Philly fans. But let me know what you think. 267-495-8531. Get you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Have we gotten soft as a fan base? I said no. I say no. We just don't have the edge we used to have. Be sure to hit me up on social media, Twitter and TikTok, Jimbo_Mott, Instagram at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott. Like it. Tell your friends. Spread the word. All your information for the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame is in the description. We have a meeting tomorrow, and if you're interested in sponsoring or having something donate for the auction, hit me up for that as well. All right, Phillies, red hot right now. 6-1, 6 straight wins. They swept the Giants. Wheeler's out there doing ace stuff. Went 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 11 Ks. Just doing Zach Wheeler stuff. Bryce Harper's starting to heat up, and I mentioned it the other day with Trey Turner being out. He has to be the guy that steps up. He had a 3-run homer again for the second straight day. They moved Bryson Stott to shortstop and had Whit Merrifield at second. Personally, I mean, Bryson Stott was he was a Gold Glove finalist for second base. I like this a lot because Whit Merrifield is better if he's playing every day. And Edmundo Sosa, we've seen it. He's not an everyday player, so it keeps him on the bench. Whether or not, we'll see what they do today. But Stott immediately had an amazing double play in the first inning. So I like this. And you keep Sosa kind of as your filling guy as well as your guy off the bench. But we'll take it. They're currently up 3 games on the Braves. This is their best start since 1993. And speaking of 1993, guess who's in town? The Toronto Blue Jays come to town for a 2-game set today and tomorrow. And you all know what happened in 1993. But I think, too, a lot is being made of the Phillies schedule. But they're doing what they should be doing. And, yes, they have the best record. Are they the best team in baseball right now? I don't know. It's still early May. But they're dominating the teams they should be dominating. So you can say, oh, yeah, it's because of the schedule. But they're doing to the teams on their schedule what they should be doing. Do I want to see how they match up against the Braves, the Dodgers? Yeah. The Rangers, they have a series coming up in 2 weeks against them. I want to see how they match up against them. The Orioles, the Yankees. We'll get there. But they're beating up on the bottom feeders like they should be. And I mean, you can only play who's in front of you, but they're doing, like, so many times Philly teams play down to their competition. Phillies are not. They're just like, screw you. You're a terrible team. We're a good team. We're blowing you out, and that's where we are right now. So I like it. All right, so two things. I mentioned the Blue Jays coming in 1993. Philly Goat has you covered with that. Joe Carter ruined my childhood. Still have nightmares about that home run to this day. And then, of course they do. Brandon Marsh was mic'd up the other night for Sunday Night Baseball. They asked him who would be in his rock band. He said him, Garrett Stubbs, and Kyle Schwarber, and they would call themselves Stay Loose and Sexy. Philly Goat has a shirt for that. So go check out their Philly collection as well as the London, the Philly Connect. Joe Carter ruined my childhood. If you want to get in on the Blue Jays series, just use that promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. All right, we do have some Flyers news. Today is the draft lottery for the NHL. So wear anything lucky you have to try to give the Flyers some good luck. They currently have the 12th pick, and there's like an 85.7% chance that that's where they'll go. They could go up as high as number 2. There's a 5% chance for that. They could go to 3rd or 4th, but that's very, very mathematically unlikely. They could fall to 13th. There's about a 9% chance for that. Could also go to 14th, which is also unlikely. So it looks like they're going to be 12, or 13. Most likely number 12. But you never know when it comes to these things. Crazier things has happened. And in the words of a wise man, so you're telling me there's a chance. We'll have an update tomorrow on the Flyers lottery chances. Again, I got my light on, and it's still all screwed up. No clue what's going on here. All right. Today, we're going to go back to 2001. And on this day in 2001, construction began on Lincoln Financial Field. However, the more I thought long and hard about this, and I cannot do a podcast called This Day in Philly Sports History without talking about this. So even though construction started on the link today, and I could have gone into the history of the link, we're going to go a year later. 2002. And on this day in 2002, Allen Iverson gave the most iconic Philly press conference of all time, quite possibly one of the most iconic press conferences in all of sports, right up there with Jim Moore's playoffs, and Mike Gundy, I'm a man, I'm 40, and Denny Green, all of them. Let me know, by the way, your favorite press conference. But the 2001-2002 season ended, we talked about the other day, ended in the first round for the Sixers, who were the defending champs. That year, Iverson and Larry Brown went at it multiple times, arguing through the media. Larry Brown didn't like his practice habits and things like that. They were arguing the day of this press conference. Larry Brown finally said, I'm not going to trade you, and that kind of calmed things down. Iverson was going to come back, do his end of the season press conference. And then, of course, the reporters went at him and started asking him about the things that Larry Brown had been saying. Iverson was caught off guard. He thought he was going to kind of do his recap, say, me and Larry are coming back for next year, blah, 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 blah. And that led to the entire practice. We're talking about practice. And that whole rant. Side note on this, Allen Iverson was 100% right in that whole thing. He's not going to make the guys better. The guys are who they are. But this whole thing was like, I'm the franchise player and we're talking about practice, not the game. And he went on this passionate rant about how he gives his all. And like what was missed in a lot of this, there was rumors then, of course, like, oh, Allen was drinking, which he denied, or was drunk during the press conference. But I think that whole entire season, his best friend was murdered. The trial of the accused murderer started earlier that week. So he was very emotional. Obviously, Allen Iverson is always emotional. And I think lost in the whole, everybody, the soundbite is practice. We talking about practice. But lost in it, he said, I'm upset because I'm here. I lost. basically saying because the season was over. They went from the NBA Finals to being out in the first round. And then he's like, I lost my best friend. My best friend is dead. And we lost. I'm here. Like, he was very upset about it all because say what you want about Allen Iverson, his passion was there. He didn't want to leave Philly. He didn't want to lose. He wanted to win a championship. So this whole thing, everybody says, oh, it's practice. Yes, that's the soundbite everybody remembers. But lost in this was him being upset that the team lost. So all-time, one of my favorites, Allen Iverson. But on this day, back in 2002, Allen Iverson gave his iconic practice press conference at the end of the 2001-2002 season. Side note, they started construction on the link on this day in 2001 as well. Finally today, it's a family affair. And today we're going to spotlight Ken Brett, a pitcher who played 14 years in the leagues for 10 different teams, 14 years in the majors for 10 different teams, including the 1973 season with the Phillies. He had a solid year that year for a last-place team. He went 13-9 in 25 starts, pitched 10 complete games, 1 shutout, 111 strikeouts, and a pretty solid 3.44 ERA. That was Mike Schmidt's rookie year, so big things were on the horizon. They ended up trading him at the end of that season. But did the Phillies have the right or the wrong brother in this situation? And I think it depends on which brother you focus on. So there were 4 Brett brothers total. John and Bobby had played briefly in the minors. So if you compare it to that, the Phillies had the right Brett brother for the 1973 season. However, there's another Brett brother who happens to be a Hall of Famer, and his name is George. And yes, George Brett, third baseman, who, in my opinion, will never, ever be better than number 2 on the all-time third base list for third baseman. And he also happens to be a 1980 World Series loser. He did win one in like 1985 or something with the Royals. But he lost in 1980 to the greatest third baseman of all time, Mike Schmidt. George Brett will never be number 1 on that list. I don't care who you are, what you say. George Brett could be sitting right here next to me, and I would tell him to his face, you're number 2, buddy. You're number 2. Maybe number 2. But obviously, in that instance, we had Ken, but George was the Hall of Famer. So today's It's a Family Affair spotlight. Ken Brett, pitcher for the Phillies for the 1973 season, brother of Hall of Famer and second best third baseman of all time, George Brett, and 1980 World Series loser, George Brett. On this day in 2002, Allen Iverson gave his iconic practice press conference, as well as in 2001, construction began on Lincoln Financial Field. Wear your lucky gear for the Flyers tonight for the Draft Lottery. Check out Philly Goat for the Stay Loose and Sexy and Joe Carter Ruined My Childhood shirts. Again, you every day you can buy a new shirt and still have a great wardrobe collection for the summer. Phillies look to make it 7 straight against the Blue Jays today. Let me know what you feel for the question of the day. As a fan base, have we gotten softer, or are we just very content and thinking more logically and rational now that we have the title? Let me know. 267-495-8531. Get you in on the Back to the Future text line. Also, let me know what your thoughts are on Daryl Morey's press conference. Did he say anything, or are we going for the old head reunion this year? 267-495-8531. Get you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Thank your kids' teachers. Thank a nurse, any teacher you know. Thank them this week. Do something nice for them. You don't have to go out and spend, like I'm telling you from experience, just a simple thank you is all you need. But it is Teacher and Nurses Appreciation Week. So if you're a teacher or a nurse out there, I appreciate you. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate you. And you definitely should get well. And most of the nurses and teachers don't do it for money, by the way. They just want to make a difference. And they should get far more respect. And to me, it comes down to the respect. So go appreciate teachers, appreciate nurses. It's going to be a hot one today. Let's go, Phils. Whew, I told you we had a big show today. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Tuesday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.